In the spring of 2019, in Indio, California, hundreds of thousands of people were flocking to the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. The festive atmosphere was vibrant, and lively music echoed throughout the valley. Everyone was full of energy, enjoying moments of freedom and connection. Amidst the bustling crowd were Olivia and Chloe, whose names have been changed, two close friends from another state who came to experience this famous festival. Olivia and Chloe blended into the crowd, dancing to the music and taking photos. They met many new people, sharing joy and excitement. It was in this open and vibrant atmosphere that they met him. He was a man who looked quite charming, with a friendly smile and captivating eyes. He approached Olivia and Chloe naturally, starting a conversation about the music and the festival atmosphere. He seemed very knowledgeable about the artists and appeared to be an interesting companion. He introduced himself as David, name changed, and quickly gained the trust of Olivia and Chloe. He said he was a local and knew more interesting places in the area. Not just the festival. He talked about a private party after the festival, in a quieter and more comfortable place, where they could enjoy life to the fullest. Olivia and Chloe, drawn in by David's appearance and confidence, along with the desire to experience new things, agreed to go with him. They didn't know that behind that charming smile was a terrifying darkness. As night fell and the festival gradually concluded, David suggested Olivia and Chloe come with him to that party. They left the festival area together, joining the flusso of people heading out. David drove an old car, taking them out of Indio, deep into a deserted suburban area. The further they went, the more the festival lights faded into the distance, giving way to the darkness that enveloped them. Olivia and Chloe felt a little uneasy, but they tried to reassure themselves. They trusted David, believing in what he had said about an interesting party. Finally, the car stopped in front of a small house, hidden in a secluded area, surrounded by woods. The house looked old and gloomy under the moonlight. David turned to Olivia and Chloe, smiling. "Welcome to the place of release," he said, his voice having a strange coldness that Olivia and Chloe had never heard before. Olivia and Chloe got out of the car, their unease growing. The house in the woods looked desolate and terrifying under the moonlight. There was no sign of a party happening here. David opened the door of the house and invited them inside. The air inside was cold and damp, with an unpleasant musty smell. It was pitch black inside, with only the faint light from David's flashlight illuminating the way. "This feels a little strange," Olivia whispered to Chloe. "Are you sure there's a party here?" Chloe also felt uneasy, but she tried to stay calm. "Maybe the party hasn't started yet," Chloe said. David led them into a small living room. The room was cluttered and dirty, with old, dusty furniture. No one else was there. Olivia and Chloe looked at each other suspiciously. David noticed. "The party will start soon," David said, smiling. "First, let's relax a bit." He took out a small packet from his pocket. "This is a special gift for my two beautiful girls," David said, his voice sounding inviting. "High-quality ecstasy. It will help you find release and enjoy life to the fullest." Olivia and Chloe looked at the packet of drugs in David's hand, their unease turning into fear. They had never used drugs. "No, thank you," Olivia said, her voice trembling. "We don't do that." The smile on David's face suddenly disappeared. His eyes became cold and terrifying. "Why not?" he asked, his voice dropping. "This is your chance to find release. Don't you want to break free from the chains of life?" Olivia and Chloe shivered. They knew they had been trapped. This man was not normal. David began to talk about release. He said that life was full of pain and constraints, and he could help others escape from those things. He spoke of release as a gift, a bestowal. David's eyes were full of madness and obsession. Olivia and Chloe felt utter terror. They knew they were facing a pervert and a dangerous man. They tried to find a way to escape, but David blocked the exit. He held the packet of drugs in his hand, looking at them with terrifying eyes. "Don't be afraid," David said, his voice whispering, eerie. "I will help you find release. You will no longer suffer." Olivia and Chloe knew they were in serious danger. This killer was not joking about release. Olivia and Chloe knew they couldn't escape David. He was too strong, and his eyes were full of madness. They felt desperate. David continued to talk about release, about how he could help them escape the pains of life. He opened the packet of ecstasy, the colorful pills sparkling under the faint flashlight. "Take them," David said, his voice softening strangely, but still full of dread. "Trust me, you will feel amazing. You will be released." Olivia and Chloe looked at each other. They knew refusing would probably make him angrier. In that situation, they felt they had no other choice. They reluctantly took the pills from David's hand. "Take them," David repeated, the terrifying smile reappearing on his face. Olivia and Chloe took a deep breath and swallowed the pills. A bitter taste spread in their mouths. David looked at them with a satisfied expression. "Good," he said, "now just relax. You'll start feeling the effects soon." He lit an old oil lamp, illuminating the gloomy living room. David sat down in an old armchair, staring intently at Olivia and Chloe. Olivia and Chloe sat on the floor, their unease still present, but gradually, they began to feel their bodies changing. A warm sensation spread throughout their bodies. Their minds became lighter. The feeling of fear gradually faded, replaced by a strange sense of euphoria and happiness. I feel a little strange," Olivia said, her voice dreamy. "Me too," Chloe said, her face relaxing. They began to giggle. Everything around them seemed brighter. Colors more vibrant. The sound of music from afar, perhaps from the festival, echoed, sounding more melodious and captivating than ever. "See?" David said, his voice disturbingly eerie in their ears. "You're starting to find release." Olivia and Chloe looked at David. His face was no longer terrifying, but became blurry, like a part of a dream. They began to talk about their feelings, about the freedom and joy they were experiencing. David listened with a look of possession in his eyes. As time passed, the feeling of euphoria gradually changed. Olivia and Chloe's minds became more confused. They no longer had control over their thoughts and actions. They felt their bodies become heavy, difficult to move. Their vision became blurred, and then, the feeling of fear began to return. Stronger than before, they felt that something was wrong. They looked at David. His face became terrifying again. A wide grin, black eyes staring intently at them. "It's time," David said, his voice cold and emotionless. "It's time for you to be completely released." Olivia and Chloe tried to scream, tried to resist, but their bodies no longer obeyed them. They felt helpless and utterly terrified. They watched as David slowly approached, something gleaming in his hand in the darkness. In a state of delirium and utter terror, Olivia and Chloe watched David approach. He held a gleaming knife in his hand. His eyes were full of madness and cruelty. "Don't be afraid," David said, his voice whispering, yet clearly audible in the terrifying silence of the house. I will help you find release. You will escape all suffering. You will find eternal peace." Olivia and Chloe tried to scream, tried to resist, but their bodies had no strength left. They felt completely helpless. They watched David stand right in front of them. He bent down, looking directly into their eyes. The terrifying smile reappeared on his face. "You'll thank me later," David said, his voice sounding triumphant. "I am the benefactor. I am the one who brings release." Olivia and Chloe looked into David's eyes. Those were no longer the charming eyes they had seen at the festival. They were cold, lifeless eyes, the eyes of a killer. They felt as if their souls were being sucked into those eyes. David slowly raised the knife. The faint light from the oil lamp shone on the blade, reflecting a cold and terrifying light. Olivia and Chloe tightly closed their eyes, not daring to look at the horrifying scene about to unfold. They heard David giggling, the laughter sounding savage and insane. Then, they felt a sharp, cold, and piercing pain. A feeling of extreme agony spread throughout their bodies. They wanted to scream, to cry, to beg, but they couldn't make any sound. In their last moments, Olivia and Chloe felt their souls being torn from their bodies. They felt a coldness engulf them. And then, everything plunged into darkness. David stood there, looking at the two motionless bodies on the floor. The smile was still on his face. He felt a strange satisfaction. He had helped two souls find release. He believed that he was doing a good deed. He was the one who brought peace to those who were suffering. David looked at the two bodies, his eyes full of possession. He knew his work was not finished. He had to take them to their final resting place. He began to clean the room, wiping away the blood from the floor. He worked carefully and meticulously, leaving no trace. Afterward, he wrapped the two bodies in tarps and carried them to the back of the house. Darkness enveloped the woods. Insects chirped in the night. David dug two deep holes in the woods. Near his house, he placed the two bodies in the holes, covered them with soil, and carefully concealed them. David stood there, looking at the two new graves. He smiled. "Rest in peace," he whispered. "You have been released." After the Coachella festival, Olivia and Chloe did not return home. Their parents and friends began to worry when they didn't receive any news from them. They tried to contact them, but Olivia and Chloe's phones were turned off. After a few days, Olivia and Chloe's parents reported their disappearance to the police. The police began an investigation. They searched the Coachella festival area, asking people who had met Olivia and Chloe. However, no one saw them after they left the festival with a strange man. Police checked surveillance cameras in the festival area and found images of Olivia and Chloe leaving with David. However, the images were not clear, and the police could not identify David. The investigation reached a dead end. There were no clues about where Olivia and Chloe had gone or what had happened to them. Meanwhile, David continued his normal life in his house in the woods. He continued to go to other festivals and crowded events, looking for new victims to release. He believed that he was chosen to do this work. He believed that he was helping suffering souls find peace. However, the souls that David had released did not find rest. The spirits of Olivia and Chloe, along with the spirits of his other victims, were still lingering in the woods near his house. They were trapped there, unable to cross over. In the woods, where the bodies were buried, an evil energy began to accumulate. The air became cold and gloomy. Hikers or hunters who sometimes wandered into that area felt a strange unease. They heard strange noises, whispers, and felt as if someone was watching them. A few people reported strange phenomena in that area, but the police paid little attention. They thought they were just rumors or imagination. However, the horrifying truth about the buried souls was gradually being revealed. The suffering souls were trying to find a way to be discovered, for the truth about their deaths to be exposed, and they would not find rest until the killer paid for his crimes. Months passed, and the disappearance of Olivia and Chloe gradually faded from memory. The police had no leads, and their families lived in pain and despair. However, the truth could not be hidden forever. One autumn day, a group of hunters was hunting in the woods near David's house. They got lost in a secluded area and felt a strange coldness. One of the hunters, named Mark, name changed, suddenly saw something unusual on the ground. It was a piece of tarp partially buried under the soil. Mark felt curious and suspicious. He and the other hunters began to dig in that area. As they dug deeper, they were horrified to discover a human body. The body had decomposed, but they could clearly see it was the body of a woman. Police were notified and arrived at the scene. They investigated the area and discovered more graves. In total, 8 female bodies were found in those woods. Police identified the bodies as women who had gone missing in recent years, including Olivia and Chloe. The entire city of Cleveland and the surrounding area were shocked by this horrifying discovery. A serial killer had been operating in the area, and he had buried his victims in the woods. Police began a deeper investigation to identify the killer. They interviewed residents living near the woods, searching for information about anyone with suspicious behavior. They also researched the history of those woods and the rumors related to it. During the investigation, police interviewed David, who lived in the small house in the woods. David appeared cooperative and normal. However, police noticed something strange in his eyes. One of the investigators, Detective Thompson, name changed, felt something was off about David. He decided to keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, David continued to live his normal life. He had no idea that the police were suspicious of him. He believed that he had hidden his crimes perfectly. However, the buried souls in the woods were not at rest. They were waiting for justice. In the woods, at night, strange phenomena continued to occur. Whispers, cries, and the feeling of being watched. Sometimes, people saw blurry figures lurking among the trees. They were the suffering souls, trying to speak the truth, while police were trying to find more evidence and identify the killer. Detective Thompson continued to follow David. He felt a strange unease about this man. Detective Thompson investigated David more deeply. He discovered that David was a reclusive person who rarely socialized. He had no criminal record, but there were a few reports of his strange behavior in the past. Detective Thompson also looked into the places David had visited in recent years. He found out that David often went to festivals and crowded events across the United States. That made Detective Thompson suspicious. Why would David frequently go to such places? Was he perhaps using those places to find victims? Detective Thompson decided to break into David's house to search for evidence. He believed that the house contained secrets about the murders. One night, Detective Thompson and a few other police officers raided David's house. The inside of the house was dark and dirty, with a gloomy and terrifying atmosphere. Inside the house, police found many strange items, including photographs of young women, items related to festivals and events, and an old diary. In the diary, police were horrified to discover David's handwriting. He wrote about the parties he had hosted, about helping young women find release by ending their lives. He described in detail how he lured victims, gave them drugs to incapacitate them, and then brutally murdered them. He believed he was doing a good deed, bringing peace to suffering souls. Detective Thompson and the other police officers shivered reading those insane lines. They knew that David was the serial killer they had been searching for. David was arrested immediately. When interrogated, David remained calm and even smiled when talking about the murders. He believed that he was chosen, the one who brought release. He said he saw the suffering in the eyes of young women, and he wanted to help them escape the chains of life. He believed that death was the only way to find eternal peace. Detective Thompson and the other police officers were disgusted and horrified by David's madness. David was charged and brought to trial. The trial shocked the nation. He was convicted of serial murder and sentenced to death. Although David was caught and faced justice, the pain and loss of the victims' families could not be compensated. They still had to live with the haunting memory of their loved ones. The bodies found in the woods were identified and laid to rest. After David's arrest, the strange phenomena in the woods seemed to decrease. However, local residents still felt some kind of unease in that area. They said they still heard whispers and felt as if someone was watching them. Perhaps the spirits of the victims were still lingering there, seeking complete peace. The story of the killer at the Coachella festival and his horrifying murders became an urban legend. It is a warning to everyone about the danger of predators lurking in the shadows. It is also a reminder of the fragility of life and the dark secrets that can exist even in the most joyful and vibrant events. Detective Thompson, who found David, could not forget his insane eyes and words about release. He knew that there were evil things existing in this world that science could not explain. This story is a tragedy, a reminder that we must always be vigilant and never let our guard down, even in the happiest moments. And perhaps, the souls released by the killer are still seeking true peace. If you enjoyed these true horror stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel to follow our latest videos. We will bring you more terrifying and haunting stories. Thank you for listening.